Okay, been chomping at the bit at work all day to do a video analysis. Well, me just talking. Analysis of the results of the 2024 North Carolina Republican primary election. In other words, what was that? As Phil Moore from the great game show Nickelodeon Arcade would say, what was that? Okay, so I'm going to do things a little differently than my video I did where I actually gave recommendations on different candidates and so forth. I just went right straight down my ballot. This one is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to talk about some races that were not on my ballot, were in other parts of the state, but I do have strong opinions on. So we'll go ahead and look at that. Alright, so first one here is the race down in House District 14 down in Onslow County. You had Wyatt Gable, 21-year-old student at East Carolina University, defeat George Cleveland, who's, I believe, is 85. George Cleveland is 85. Wyatt Gable's only 21. And Gable defeated Cleveland by a margin of 95 votes. That was only out of about little less than 5,000 votes cast, about 4,800. So if you think your vote doesn't count, well, you may have some things come up like Wyatt Gable over George Cleveland. Okay. Next one I'll talk about is in the North Carolina House. Let's see here. Okay. Cecil Brockman, the Democrat in House District 60, barely hangs on by a margin of, it was 3,047 to 2,964. So was that a margin of roughly 83 votes? 83 votes. Yeah. Out of about 6,000 votes cast in that one. And then House District 62, the primary among the Republicans. My opponent, excuse me, the person I endorsed, Michelle Bardsley, comes in third in this race. Ann Schneider comes in fourth with about 17% of the vote. Bardsley third with about 19% of the vote. Jackson Barber, never heard of him or her, with 10% of the vote. Britt Moore had a little bit higher between Bardsley, and the winner was John Blust. Now, John Blust, he was in the legislature for about 16 years, from 2002 to about 2018. Was a very good legislature, very conservative. My issue with him, and the reason why I did not endorse him and went with Bardsley, mainly was because I was Facebook friends with John Blust. And then, back in December of 2020, I made a remark about, okay, the Supreme Court has said that this election is legitimate, that Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump. And Blust said a comment or something about I'm in the whatever, I'm a rhino or something like that. And then next thing I know, he unfriends me just because of that. Like, I mean, seriously, I'm pretty doggone conservative. If I have to I hate saying this, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about a 7 or 8. Okay, I'm not all, but I'm pretty doggone conservative. And Blust is, Blust is not going to be a bust as a legislator. He votes very well, but his, social game outside of the political sphere, I don't know why he unfriended me on Facebook. Was probably because he he's an election denier, and I'm more of a realist. Anyway, also, let's see, anything else in the House I want to talk about? Oh yes, House District 82 down in Cabarrus County, Concord area, just a little north and east of Charlotte. Brian Echeverria, yeah. Brian Echeverria defeated Kevin Crutchfield. Now, Echeverria was the more Liberty grassroots friendly of the two candidates. And Brian, this was a very close race. This was a margin of 171 votes. That was it. Out of about 9,000 votes cast in that race. And Brian got a lot of support from the grassroots Tea Party, the MAGA crowd. Kevin Crutchfield was more the establishment. I think he'd actually been in the legislature before. And Abdul Ali, believe it or not, who was a supporter of Brian, actually switched at the last minute to Kevin Crutchfield because there was some news that it was the CBS affiliate in Charlotte, WBTV, had put on, found some information that Brian Echeverria had ties to the Proud Boys and some of these other really, really, really extreme, radical, so far to the right that you fall over kind of radical group like the Proud Boys, and they were involved in the whole January 6th thing, and so that. Also, anything else in the House? No. Okay. The North Carolina Senate. Talk about those. Okay, this one was a bit of an upset in my opinion. Bob Brinson defeats Michael Speciale. This is out in Beaufort, Craven, and Lenoir County, out in the east part of the state. And this was actually a pretty significant margin. It was a margin of over 2,000 votes. 54.4 to 45.6. So Brinson over Speciale. Now, Speciale used to be in the legislature, and he was very, very good, very conservative, but I think maybe Speciale was with the Freedom Caucus. Well, Keith Kidwell, the current legislature in that area, I believe in the House, yes, House Freedom Caucus, Representative Kidwell was also in the House Freedom Caucus, and he, he's starting to get a tad bit rhino-y. That's a word, because Representative Kidwell endorsed Whatley over Kane in the NCGOP chairman's race last year, and also Kidwell endorsed Catherine Truitt over Michelle Moreau in the Department of Instruction race. So maybe that indirectly hurts Speciale. That would be my reasoning for this loss on that. And then anything else in the Senate, I do not see anything. Okay, so let's go to federal. Oh boy, the big boys now. And you think both parties are wacko. Well, look at this. The Libertarian Party, right? They had their presidential primary, and No Preference was the number one vote getter with 40% of the vote. Can you imagine that happening in the Republican or the Democratic Party, for that matter? So yeah, that's cray right there. The Donald did about as well as I thought he was going to do. I thought he would do somewhere between 70 to 75% of the vote. He got 73.86% of the vote. And then Nikki Haley, the only thing I'll say about her is she finally decided that she was done driving around in her father's Ferrari and finally decided to turn herself in. She suspended her campaign. Yesterday was the primary election, but here in North Carolina, she got just about 250,000 votes, 23.32% of the vote. And then my boy Ron DeSantis got 14,690, 1.37% of the vote. And then no preference. We have Vivek, then Christie, then Brinkley, and finally 723 people said, why not? Let's give Asa Hutchinson a shot. Okay, the House Representative races. The first district. This district is in the northeast part of the state. It has become, it used to be about a D+5, D+8. Now it's actually only like a D+1 or an even toss-up. So this one, this was very hotly contested between Lori Buckout, and by the way, that's spelled differently than Bookout or Ashley Bookout, you know. But Lori Buckout. See, now I'm doing it so much I'm messing up. Get serious for a second. So you had Sandy Smith in this race. This is her third time running for Congress in the first district. She lost both times, 20 and 22. Decides to run again. Loses again this time. Now the thing with Lori Buckout was that the NRCC, the National Republican Congressional Committee, put a lot of money into her campaign for this race. So there was that factor. And also, you couple the fact this was Sandy Smith's third time on the ballot, and yet she lost, couldn't even make it out of the primary this time. That shows you voters were starting to get fatigued a little bit with her as the Republican nominee in the general election. There's a lot of talk about domestic disputes with her and her husband and that sort of thing. So Lori Buckout is now the nominee, and she'll go up against Don Davis, who has been around the political scene in the Greenville area for quite some time. So that again is the toss-up opportunity for that. Let's see. Now over in District 2, which District 2, I believe, that's a Wake County. That is a dark blue district that very likely will go to the Democrats in the fall. But Alan Swain is the Republican nominee there, and he clobbers the field with 59.57% of the vote there. House District 3, Greg Murphy did not have a primary opponent, so he advances to the general election. House District 4 for the Republicans, that is, again, a very blue area. That is Chatham County, Orange County, Durham County, and part of Wake County. That one was won by Mr. Eric Blankenberg, who had 70% of the vote. Then we get to my district, District 5. The incumbent Virginia Foxx had her poorest showing ever as an incumbent. Very reassuring, to me at least. And those of us who look at Virginia Foxx and say, well, you run your mouth to WXII News and say you're all pro-border wall, but yet you voted no to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, on the other hand. So, but Virginia Foxx could only muster 68% of the vote. And you may think, Bobby, 68% of the vote, that's still a lot. Well, it is, but listen, Virginia Foxx usually wins 83-17, 76-24, so this is her lowest voting total ever in a Republican primary for her. And Ryan Mayberry, a very respectable 32% of the vote there. Bigger and better things, I believe, will happen for Ryan Mayberry. Virginia Foxx is 81 years old. This probably going to be her last term in Congress. I don't know for sure, but, we'll see. Okay. House District 6 of the U.S. Congress. Okay. Well, this is going to a runoff. We have the Goober, Mark Walker, versus the lobbyist, Addison McDowell. The Goober and the lobbyist, right? Tonight on CBS. Addison McDowell gets 26.11% of the vote. Mark Walker, 24.08%. Christian Castelli, very disappointing night showing for him. He took third with 21.09% of the vote. Bo Hines, he's definitely big disappointment for him, finishing fourth. Only got 14.4% of the vote. He ran and was actually a nominee in the 13th district. Lost by only 1,000 votes last time to the Democrat Wiley Nickel. And then we have the two lesser, but certainly not least candidates. Jay Wagner, former mayor of High Point, got 9.16% of the vote, and the plastic surgeon and restaurant owner, Mary Ann Contagianis, Marianne Contagianis with 5.15% of the vote there. That one, I would probably vote for either Wagner or Contagianis in that race. For the runoff, it's Goober versus the lobbyist. The Goober, Mark Walker, I would vote for him over the lobbyist, Addison McDowell, because Mark Walker, when he was actually in Congress before, he usually voted the right way. Usually, being the operative word. There was one time, of course, he voted for John Boehner as Speaker, but that was back in 2015, his very first vote, and ever since then he's been really, really good voting wise. Okay, District 8. We have, by the hair of his chinny chin chin, or by the ooze of the Boys Creek, of the Boys Creek, we have Mark Harris. Welcome back, sir. He wins this race with 30.44% of the vote. So just 0.44% over that 30% threshold that you need to avoid a runoff. But Alan Balcom had a good showing here. Second place, 27% of the vote. Disappointing night for John Bradford, a former state legislature, with 17.78% of the vote. And then there were three other challengers who I've never heard of before, but hi. U.S. House District 9, this one was very strong, showing by the incumbent Richard Hudson, had 83%. I'll say that again, 83% of the vote. That was, stunning. I knew Hudson was going to win here, but that was very, very high. Troy Tarazan, hopefully better days are ahead for him. District 10, we have Pat Harrigan ekes out the win over Gray Mills. 41% of the vote to 38.9% of the vote. Better days, I think, are ahead for Brooke McGowan. She finishes a distant third in this race at 10.05% of the race. District 11, way out west in the mountains. Way out west. Chuck Edwards, does alright. 69% of the vote. Chuck. And finally, this one's going to a runoff, by the way. Kelly Daltrey and Brad Knott in that 13th congressional district, which was one of the redrawn ones. It's got Johnston County, Harnett County, parts of Lee County, and then going north from part of Wake County, Franklin County, Granville County, Person County, and Caswell County in the 13th congressional district of North Carolina. And we got one more to talk about. That's the new 14th district. No surprise here. Tim Moore helped draw the maps. Therefore, Tim Moore picked his voters. Tim Moore cleans up very well here and gets 75% of the vote. The new 14th district, of course, includes part of Mecklenburg, Gaston County, Rutherford County, Polk County, Burke County, and oh yeah, Tim Moore's home county of Cleveland County and Kings Mountain. Can't leave out Kings Mountain. So that is a look at the what do you call it? The congressional races. Okay, now let's talk about the state, the good stuff, right? All right. Of course, as to be expected, Mark Robinson won the Republican nomination. But this one, I think he overperformed. He got 65% of the vote. I thought he would get low 50s, like 51, 52, 53, someone there. So I think he overperformed by a good 10 points. And then my choice, Dale Folwell, 19% of the vote, and then Bill Graham, 16% of the vote. So if you feel a little bit better, because you take that 35% anti-Robinson vote, that still does not beat the pro-Robinson vote of 65% there. This one, I will say, I think the speech Mark Robinson gave last night was very good, very well executed. I think he has a chance to win the governorship. I think he needs to stay positive. He needs to have that motivational style of speaking, especially the stuff he had last night. Because guess what? Josh Stein also spoke last night, and immediately, I mean, come on, Stein. You just won the race like 5 minutes ago, and you're already like going after Robinson. But Stein was just full of hate and rage and bigotry, and just goes way off on Robinson. So yeah, Robinson stays positive, hammers home on the economy, economic prosperity, that sort of thing, especially his life story of going from poverty to wealth. That's another good point too. So yeah, congratulations to Mark Robinson in that race. And then we have the 11-person lieutenant governor race. This one, Hal Weatherman, the political consultant, prevails with 19.61% of the vote, and the runner-up for the runoff is Jim O'Neill. Yeah, Jim O'Neill. You want to talk about kind of coming out of nowhere? Jim O'Neill will be the challenger in the May 14th runoff. He finishes second with 15.85% of the vote. Deanna Ballard with a very good third place, 14.96% of the vote. Seth Whittle, 11% of the vote. Sam Page, 10% of the vote. And bringing up the top half, Alan Mashburn, 9% of the vote. And then Jeffrey Elmore, who got endorsed by the Charlotte Observer newspaper. Disappointing finish for him. He finishes in seventh place with 8.6% of the vote. Peter Boykin, better days ahead for him. I think 3.46% of the vote. Rivera Dowett, 2.5. Ernest Reeves, who Ernest MIA Reeves, didn't hear a peep from him at all during the campaign. Somehow gets 2.45% of the vote. It does not finish last. And the last place winner was a person I voted for, and that was Marlenis Hernandez Novoa. Better days are ahead, I believe, for Mrs. Novoa. And look, if you lost in the primary, please stay involved. Okay, in the Republican Party. Keep going, go to your county meetings, your county conventions are happening this month, districts are next month, district conventions, so please stay involved. The neat thing about Deanna Ballard was, I'm looking at the map here, and she won like all the counties that have really good Republican women's clubs. She won Carteret out of the coast, Lenore, in just south of Greenville, Johnston County, very strong Republican women coalition there. Lincoln County over in Charlotte, very strong, and she won some of these counties right along the North Carolina-Tennessee border. Did very well out in that mountain area too. Jim O'Neill, talk about his victory here. Did very well in Brunswick and Columbus County down the southeastern part of the state. Also picked up a lot of counties. Forsyth County, obviously, because he's the district attorney there, but also did very well in Davie County, and Yadkin County. Also won a couple of random counties, Transylvania County and Haywood County out in the mountains, as well as McDowell County. Also Bertie County and Martin County, a couple of random counties. But he had some clusters going, like Bertie and McDowell were like right next to each other. Same thing with Bertie and Martin were next to each other, and McDowell and Transylvania County were next to each other. Hal Weatherman ran a great campaign. I mean, was at the state convention last year. You couldn't go more than 5 feet and see at least a campaign sign, a bumper sticker, or a person handing out campaign signs, bumper stickers. Did a great job. Full court press over the whole convention venue. And you can see on the map, I mean, he did... he won the majority of counties and did very well across the state, obviously. So, yeah. Let's see what else we have here. But yeah, hi Jim O'Neill. Excuse me a second. Now Jim and Seth Woodall were the only two candidates to run ads on TV for the lieutenant governor's race. The thing about Jim O'Neill, he was appointed by the Democrat governor back in 2009, Bev Perdue. And there's been a little bit of controversy among the Republican base that he's a little bit too buddy-buddy with the Democratic sheriff, Bobby Kimbrough in Forsyth County, and he's not. He's kind of wishy-washy with the whole immigration issue as well. I also think Rachel Hunt will be the Democrat challenger for the lieutenant governor position. I think Jim's a very vanilla, very stiff kind of candidate. Hal Weatherman, he's a political consultant, but there's definitely a lot of good things I can say about him traveling to all 100 counties in his campaign. He said, look, I could just go to 35 counties, focus on those, but no, he's like, I want to go to all 100 and really be a man who represents all of North Carolina. And then you look at, he was chief of staff to Sue Myrick back in the 90s and part of the 2000s, and Sue Myrick, congresswoman back then, was a very, very conservative voting record for Mrs. Myrick. So yeah, Hal Weatherman in the runoff, he's my choice for the lieutenant governor spot. Okay, then we have the auditor race, and this again will be going to a runoff. We have Jack Clark, who's a young guy, only like 32, 33, but very well qualified. He's a CPA. He's got a bachelor's degree, master's degree. One of them from UNC, one of them from Duke. He'll be up against Dave Bollock, who became a Democrat. Oh, looking at my imaginary watch, he became a Democrat about 5 minutes ago. Yeah, 5 minutes ago. Ooh. But Dave Bollock, UNC trustee, that's one of those danger, alarm bells go off in my brain. It's wild. Like, yeah. Jesse Thomas, we'll talk about the Secretary of State race in a little while, but Jesse Thomas, CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield North Carolina, former CEO, and yeah, that also would alarm bells go off for that. So Jack Clark is an easy choice for me in the auditor race, but I think Charles Dingy finished a disappointing third place. Apparently the Dingy will be stingy with your money, didn't catch on too well. And also there's this divide, right, between, you have the activists in the GOP, and then you have the people who are the more casual, armchair, the ones that do vote in the primaries and the general election, but they're armchair. They just, Dave Bollock's got an ad out about counting Diet Cokes and counting tailored suits. Well, I'm going to vote for Dave Bollock. That's a great ad. They just see the ad when they're watching the local news, or they're watching Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, and they just vote for the person. Whereas the activists in the party, they actually go and they attend their county GOP meetings and their Lincoln Reagan Day dinners, etc., etc. But they see Charles Dingy out there, stingy with your money, and they see him speak, and they maybe go to a candidate forum, 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5, or however many. They go to a candidate forum, and they're gonna, oh yeah, I like that Charles Dingy guy. He's pretty cool. I'll vote for him. But you can see this divide between the activist and your more armchair, or as my friend Dr. Derek Hickey down in Wilmington says, the couch Republicans. Great term. Then we have the Jeff Sourpuss Tart, Mr. I-77 toll lanes, Mr. Tart. I don't know if we'll be fourth place. Is this it for Mr. Tart? We'll see. And then my friend who I voted for, Anthony Wayne Tony Street of beautiful Brunswick County, finishes a. He didn't really campaign. Or, I mean, he certainly didn't have the infrastructure that Charles Dingy had, or Dave Bollock, or Jack Clark had. Finishes an okay fifth. Better days ahead for Mr. Street. The guy who finished last, Jim Key. He finished last, and it was a disappointing showing for him. But I think there's better days ahead for him, though. I think former city council member of Greensboro and the only candidate in the race who has federal auditing experience. I think the fact that he just changed parties like a few years ago, that might have hurt him and led to his not so great showing, maybe. Could be. But I hope Jim Key, he keeps staying active in the party, and we'll see what happens. Looking at the map here. Bollock, I will say, did very well in Durham, Greensboro, Winston-Salem. Clark won Wake County. But Dingy did very well in Pender and New Hanover. Dingy also did well in a lot of the more grassroots-friendly counties of Beaufort, Pamlico, Craven, that area down east. So that'll be another an interesting runoff between Dave Bollock and Jack Clark. Commissioner of Agriculture, really nothing to see here. Steve Troxler, 69% of the vote over Mr. Hammonds. Commissioner of Assurance, another one, par for the course, 61% of the vote to Mr. Mike Causey. Andrew Marcus and Robert Brawley, thanks for playing. See ya. Okay, and then one of my favorite races of the night, John Hardister. Oh, yes. Do you remember when Ted Cruz won the U.S. Senate primary in Texas? This was, almost 12 years ago now, and I was listening to Glenn Beck the morning after Ted Cruz won, and they did this crazy. It was like a circus clown montage, but it was like David Dewhurst lost, David Dewhurst lost, and kind of reminds me of like kind of the John Hardister losing to Luke Fairley. John Hardister lost, yeah. Oh yeah, Mr. refused to cut taxes, you country clubber rhino, you. John Hardister lost, So Luke Fairley, a pretty good win, 36.92% of the vote. Hardister, 28.07%. Travis Wilson, my number 2 candidate in this race, 13.4% of the vote. Chuck Stanley, who ran 4 years ago and not very active, but somehow he always gets about 21% of the vote. And then we have the Secretary of State. One of these 3 players will try to beat Shady Elaine Marshall, and the winner is Chad Brown. I think Chad Brown's a very strong candidate. I like his chances. I think this might be finally the year that Shady Elaine Marshall finally goes down. Chad Brown gets 43.28% of the vote. And Christine Villaverde, 29.97% of the vote. But Jesse Thomas does still pretty well here. Finishes last, but gets 26.75% of the vote. But Jesse Thomas, though, is he's the former CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, so that's you got to be careful. And then the superintendent of public instruction, Michelle Moreau. Give her a round of applause for defeating the absolutely disgusting Catherine Truitt. Yeah, Catherine Truitt I knew the day when she hired a far left Democrat to be her chief of staff, that was it. There was no coming back for Kathy Trude after that. I was like, bye, Kathy, bye. And by the way, say hi to Jim O'Neill. Hi, Jim O'Neill. Hi. Okay, and then finally, what the hell happened here? Treasurer. Oh boy. I need a moment on this. Yeah. This is a what the beep was that? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. In the last 8 years, we've had the wonderful privilege here in North Carolina to be represented by the wonderful, outstanding man of class and character known as Dale Folwell. So we go from Dale Folwell to a guy who got big bucks from Michael Bloomberg, aka Bloomberg. Yes, Michael Bloomberg, the one where, you can have soda in New York, but it has to be a itty bitty 16-ounce cup. But sir, it's 100 degrees outside. I need a 32-ounce. Well, I'll buy 2 of them. But you're going to charge me 2, right? 2 cups. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So Brad Bloomberg Brenner. Unfortunately, sometimes in politics, the big bucks are what rule the day. And Brad Brenner, who also ran a really good ad with the alphabet soup and everything, he will be the Republican nominee for treasurer now. Mr. Brenner got 39.94% of the vote. That doesn't piss you off enough. Well, Rachel Johnson finished second with 34.51% of the vote. And we have our buddy AJ Dowd. Oh, AJ, I so sorry. Painful. This absolutely freaking painful. Not only does AJ Dowd lose, but he loses pretty doggone badly here. 25.55% of the vote. Only gets 220,000 out of about 900. Yeah, 900,000 votes cast. Hey. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if in North Carolina we had the Paul Ryan rule? Bobby, what's the Paul Ryan rule? Okay, I'll explain. Back in 2012, Mitt Romney picked Congressman, House Representative Paul Ryan as his running mate. Well, of course, we all know Mitt Romney lost the presidential election in 2012 to Barack Obama. So what happened is the state of Wisconsin has a rule that says you can actually run simultaneously. Okay, Paul Ryan's the vice presidential nominee for the Republican Party, but Paul Ryan can also run still for the House seat and maintain it. So just in case he loses, which turns out he did, he can still be a congressman, right? So it's like, because Dale Folwell, ran for governor, but didn't win, shouldn't Dale Folwell also be on the ballot just in case he loses, right? Just something to think about there. But the voter turnout was 24.2% of the vote. And if that doesn't piss you off enough, that is only 1,790,000 out of a possible 7,456,000 registered voters in North Carolina. That was it. So, yeah. I'm all right. So in conclusion, I'm okay with Donald Trump winning presidency. I'm okay with Mark Robinson. Hal Weatherman. I'll be okay there, Lieutenant Governor. Alder Jack Clark. Yeah, that's good. Steve Troxler. Whatever. Ho hum. Insurance Commissioner, yay. Mike Causey, Commissioner of Labor, double yay. Extra gravy, Luke Fairley. Secretary of State, you go boy, Chad Brown. Superintendent of Public Instruction, okay, Michelle Moreau, good job, but hopefully third time's the charm, because Republicans have had control of the superintendent seat for 8 years, right? And nothing to show for it. And then finally, Treasurer, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Brad Brenner. But again, Election Day. Go Brad. Go Brad Brenner. Yay. Alright, that is all. Boy, but we have a lot more to do. A lot more happening. Of course, the Watley situation at the RNC, that's going to go down Friday. I don't know when I'll have a video on that. Please don't ask me. It'll be sometime within the next couple weeks, let's put it that way. And of course, my county convention is on Saturday, so we'll be doing that pretty soon too. So, politics, it's like it goes from 0 to 60 in like that. 0.5 seconds. Like, you could have nothing political happen for like 6 months, and then it's like, 10 events in 5 days. It's crazy. But I love it. I love it. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye. Oh, but say hi to Jim O'Neill. Hi, Jim. Hi, Jim O'Neill.